All right, should be recording now. We'll wait for one more minute. Seems like people are still dropping in.
No problem.
Well, yeah, we're pretty much ready now. If you want to, let's start the event.
All right, guys. Welcome everyone to our second Siggraph Speaker Series event. Thanks you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. Today we have a very special guest with us today, Benjamin Dai. He is a creative director at Blizzard Entertainment, and he's also one of the newest faculty members at Cal State Fullerton, teaching one of the intro to 3D animation courses. So without further ado, here's Benjamin Dai. Thank you for coming, Ben.
Yeah, thank you for the intro. Hello, everybody. I see some of you are in my class, and there's some new faces. My name is Benjamin. You don't need to call me professor or anything. I'm just one of the guys. Today I want to, Jorge, Carlos asked me to talk a little bit about a few things about myself and how I got into the industry and what's it like to working at Blizzard, and maybe potentially give you guys some tips on maybe interviewing, portfolio prepping, and that kind of stuff. So and by all means, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to answer it the best I can. Obviously, disclaimer, I can't tell you guys any sort of, what's coming up next for Blizzard or what's going to go into Overwatch 2. So sorry, I can't give you any more information that's already out there. But other than that, I'll try to answer any questions the best I can. So let's talk about myself. The reason why I went into art is it's sort of, I kind of stumble into it, I guess. I always liked to draw. As a kid, I drew pretty much everything, and I draw them on the walls, tables, pencil, papers. So in a way, I'm always that kid that likes to draw, on your textbooks. One of the reason why I chose to go to Cal Arts is because they always like animation, but at the time there's not a lot of school. I'm talking like 20 some plus years ago. There's not a lot of options out there. Unlike you guys now, in Cal State, any Cal State has animation programs. There aren't any. So the only choice I had was going to Art Center to do transportation design. Back then, there's a sort of a entertainment design, but it wasn't super fleshed out 25 years ago when I was applying. So either going to Art Center doing transportation, or go to this school called Cal Arts, which is funded by Disney at the time, or partially funded by Disney, and basically teach you traditional animation. I always loved anime. I'm not a big Disney fan, right? I'm not a Nine Old Man follower. I don't even know who the nine Old Mans are until I got to Cal Arts. But I really love, watching animations. So I thought maybe I'll give that school a try. That's probably the closest thing I can think of. So I applied there and I didn't get in. They wanted a portfolio. I didn't really have one. So what I did was I went back to junior college. I went to a local college, taking some just GE class. Meantime, taking some art classes, try to get as much life drawing as I can. So eventually I built up a portfolio and then applied again, and they accepted me. So now I'm in Cal Arts. I'm learning all the animation techniques, the basics, but it's all 2D. At the time, 3D wasn't, it was just starting. We have a 3D lab so Cal Arts is divided into music, theater, dance and visual art and film and video. And then animation technically is under film and video, and there's an experimental animation and character animation. I applied for character animation. That's what the traditional, Disney sort of Warner Brother type of animations are being taught. Experimental animations are more out there, like stop motions are being taught there. And then they started their CG computer animation program in experimental. So I at the time I was interested in both, and I didn't know what I want to do at the time. So I sort of sneak into like the experimental animation class, learning 3D Max and Softimage at the time. They have a bunch of like old Silicon Graphic computers that ILM was lucky, and we were lucky enough to get some donation by ILM. So that was pretty cool. But they're like old SGI computers that are, they basically, when ILM retired a few computers, they sort of gave it out to the students in the school. So, but it was good enough that for me to start to learn a couple of basic 3D stuff with it. And one thing that's really cool with CalArts is CalArts had a really broad network of alumni that worked in the animation studio. Disney, DreamWorks, Warner Brother, you name it, it's all Pixar, everyone knew, and it's a small industry, so everyone knew pretty much everyone knows each other. So you build that connection up a little bit, like your upperclassmen graduated and they going on to Pixar or Disney, and then they might come back during portfolio days or during school events, and you can ask them, talk to them. So every year, end of the year, CalArts, you make a film. It's a 2D film in our department. So we each make a film, and then if your film is good enough, you get into like what they call a producer show. Producer shows are sponsored by big studios like Disney, Warner Brothers, all that. And then they all send representatives to go and watch these shows. And if they like certain film, they'll write down your name, and then potentially you get a call, maybe for a future opportunity, a summer internship, and maybe possibility of employment. So my film I was lucky enough to get into a few of those shows, and I was getting calls from different studios. And plus, on top of that, we had like a portfolio day where end of the year, we put our portfolio up on a table, and then all the studio will come, big and small, they'll come and they'll probably, write down your name, and then they want to talk to you. If they feel like they want to talk to you, they'll contact you, and then you guys get like almost like an on-site interview, which is really cool because it kind of teaches you some of the interview skills. On top of that, you get to know who the recruiters are, so eventually make things a little easier when you are applying for the job later on. So my first year in CalArts, I didn't get an art job. I worked as a summer intern. I worked every year in college to kind of support myself. The first year was at a bank. What I learned from working at the bank is I worked in a vault. I hated that job. I realized I did not want to get into anything remotely close to being an accountant or worked at a bank. Second year, I was lucky enough to get an internship at a studio called Angel Studio back in the day. Now it's Rockstar San Diego. So I was able to work there. They're super nice. They pay for my living expenses, and on top of that, they're paying me and also giving me a place to stay. So I was learning a lot. I was doing basically like anything they want me to do, from concept art to like any sort of drawing, cleanup stuff. But it was all 2D. I didn't really work out anything 3D at the time. That was second year college. My third year, junior year internship was it's actually not an internship, it's a regular job. I worked on Futurama. It's a TV show. Worked on a couple seasons because again, my buddy who worked there prior, like who graduated and started working there, wanted to, they're like, hey, we're hiring. Send me your portfolio. I'll try to get you guys in. So a bunch of us sent in portfolios, and then a few of us got called, and then we started working there. So I was doing some Futurama stuff, basically layouts, character layout, basically translating storyboards into like normal field size animation paper, and then later on they taking these layouts and they send it overseas to be animated by the Korean studios. So that was fun. It was a really well-paying job, and then pretty much sort of helped me to pay for my started to pay for a little bit of the tuition for the next year. I was debating whether I should go back to the school because I was making decent money, and I thought, hey, why not? Like I could just continue to work on this job as a layout 2D layout artist, and I know that could be a career because a lot of people started doing that and they just never went back to school. I went back to I finally decided that I want to try to go back to school and work at the same time. So I was going to school in the morning, and then I was going to a class at nighttime because most of CalArt classes, the senior year, you technically don't need to go to the morning classes. Senior year is pretty much all just making your final year film, senior year film, and then I was lucky enough to negotiate my way out of going to morning classes, only taking night classes, and then going to Burbank to work, and then driving all the way back to Santa Clarita at night for class. And then that lasted about a semester, and then I realized I cannot do it. It's just too much work. I wasn't getting enough sleep, so I finally decided to quit, and then finish my senior year full time. So that was sort of my college life, and right after college, I was able to, during the senior year, I was able to get into some experimental animation classes, which they're teaching you soft-mod and a little bit of Max. So I was able to learn 3D, make a rig, animated a couple of walk cycles and fight sequences in 3D. I made my own model, rigged it myself. And with that, and then pair that up with my senior year film, I was able to get an internship at ILM, Initial Light and Magic, up in Marin County. It was one of those once in a lifetime experience working at ILM, huge visual effects houses that does, like, at the time they were doing Planet of the Apes and Jurassic Park, one of the Jurassic Park movies, the one that where the T-Rex was in San Diego. So we were able to like play around with a T-Rex rig, play around with the Star Wars rigs, and I think they were doing Men in Black too. So we were able to animate a few of those rigs, but we weren't actually working on any shots because it was just a internship. They have a real nice like professional program where they put all the students or the interns in a room with a couple of instructors. The people that are working there range from college grads like myself to like people who used to work at ILM as like a creature animator, puppeteers, but they want to make that transition from traditional medium puppets to 3D.
Yeah, nope, still can't hear. Guess I'm deaf.
Well, whoever that is,
Oh, there it is. There we go. Now we're
Okay. So it's pretty, so that was a super cool experience. After that internship is done, I came back to LA, like thinking like, oh, I gotta find a job, a real job. So I started contacting people, and I remember in junior year, I drove one of my buddy from my class down to Blizzard for an interview, and then he got hired on the spot, and then he decided to just stay down there. And then so I drove home by myself. So I thought, hey, maybe I'll hit that guy up because, who knows what happened? Maybe he's still there working at Blizzard. So I don't even know his email. I know his first name and last name. So I sort of just pieced together email address, guessed it, and then send him an email thinking nothing's gonna come out of it. And then a day later he wrote me back and said, hey, what's up, man? Long time no see. You want a job? Come on down and bring your portfolio. We'll see what happens. So I was like, cool. So I drove down with my portfolio, and then the rest is history. I was hired pretty soon, maybe like a few months later. I got hired, and then I started working at Blizzard, and then here I am 20 years later. This is my 20th year at Blizzard. I started Blizzard as an animator. I applied as an animator, got in. We were using Max at the time. I would never use Max and biped to animate ever again, because it's such a horrible experience. There's no curve. My first assignment was a shot where this orc is walking, and I couldn't do it. I just could not make myself animate the orc correctly. But luckily I was able to push through and then finally finish the shot. But that taught me a lesson, basically, don't give up, right? Like, because I almost thought about quitting after like the first month, because it's just not looking right. And I don't know how to make it look right. And then luckily I got a few animator friends who working there, was able to help me out and sort of point me at the right path. So I eventually finished the shot, and I kept my job. I thought I'm either gonna quit or they're gonna fire me, because they probably think I was a phony and couldn't animate. So working at Blizzard was a really cool experience, because back then Blizzard was still a very small company, about 200 people. It's still a pretty big company, but compared to now, it's much smaller. And I was being hired as the cinematic artist, so the cinematic department was even smaller. I think I was like number 23 in the department. So we get to do just a little bit of everything. I was mainly an animator, but I was given the opportunity to, like, hey, do you want to model? We got a shortage of modelers. Help us out. So I'll start modeling, like, crates and little small sets and stuff. But then eventually one day, one of my boss, like, hey, we don't have one concept artist, and he has to do all the concepts. We need to do some storyboards. You know how to do that? I'm like, yeah, sure. I learned that in school. So I started drawing storyboards for them, and then I guess they liked it. So that continues. While I'm not animating, I was doing storyboards. Eventually, Blizzard started making bigger and much more games than just before. After World of Warcraft, there's other projects coming up. We're no longer working on one project at a time. So pretty much, got super busy. So I just started storyboard full time, and from there, I think eventually graduating to directing, and now I'm been directing for the last I think it was 7 or 8 years. So that's pretty much my professional career in like a 15-minute presentation, I guess. So that's my professional career, basically. I don't have a whole lot of like resume. On my resume it says like Futurama for like half a year, ILM internship, and Blizzard Entertainment from blah 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 to present, 20 years. So that. But during Blizzard, I was able to do a couple of different things. Besides a storyboard, because the storyboards we have to staff up for all the work. So I was put in charge of sort of building out a story team. So I was able to interview a bunch of storyboard artists first, just to kind of fill out the rank, and then eventually they're like, hey, we need a supervisor, so why don't you be the supervisor? Like sort of just like temporary supervisor, because they knew they asked me what I want to do. I never want to be a people manager. I just want to be a director, so that you'll probably be a director, but for now I want you to manage the board team, because we got a couple of guys. So doing that during that time, I was promoted to the director position, but then they also needed a previous supervisor. Because I guess I was working with our previous artists pretty closely. So they say, hey, why don't you be the previous supervisor for just a couple of months until they find a replacement. So I was there for about almost like a year and a half. So kind of directing, also supervising the two teams. Granted, the teams are pretty small at the time, so I was able to pull off both. But eventually, when the team got bigger, I just don't feel like I have enough time for two teams, also directing my own show. So I sort of picked the right person and promoted them to be the supervisor for both teams. So that's kind of like my career at Blizzard, changing from working my way from animator to a director. Hey, Carol. So anyway, so that's my professional career. Let's see, I'm just reading off some of the questions that Carlos sent me. The hardest lesson you had to learn while at Blizzard. I think the biggest lesson I think I learned at Blizzard is, that's a good question. Is I can tell you the hardest or the best lesson I learned as a director working at Blizzard is I realized halfway through directing my first project that I don't have to do everything. I'm not an expert in everything, and there's no way in hell I was able to do everything. I don't need to know everything as well because I have a whole team of professional artists, expert in their field that can do the job. I just need to trust them. So that was my biggest lesson I learned, is trusting my project to the supervisor, to the artist that's working on my project. It's sometimes for a young director, it's a pitfall that you often fall in, that you have to do everything. You're holding on to your project so tight to your chest. You don't let anyone else touch it. You don't trust anyone. And then people who are working on your project becomes distant. They don't feel like they're invested in the project. They don't feel like they feel like they're just wrists and hands, and you're just controlling them. You're the puppet master. When you start making people feel like that, they no longer want to invest 100% or 110% to your project. They just want to do what you tell them to. When they suggest something, you have to listen, and you have to really either figure out how to incorporate those suggestions if they're right or better than your idea, or if they're not good enough, or it just simply wouldn't fit the bill of what you want to do. You have to figure out a way to talk to them, to make them understand that it's not because your idea is bad, it's just because these things cannot happen because A, B, C, and D reasons. So I spend quite a bit of my time while I was directing, going through these process of making sure that, hearing people out, making sure that everyone have a voice in the process, everyone who's willing to, take the time to write me an email suggesting stuff, or to come up stopping me at the hallway suggesting ideas. I hear them out. If they're good, I implement those changes, and make sure that I'm giving them the proper credit. So and so told me we should do this, and then we did it, and then it's better. The project is better because of that. And then so for that reason, people who actually suggest it will feel good. And also I feel like they are part of the ownership. They have part ownership of the project, and in a way they will invest more time and their energy into the project, and then it will eventually make the project even better than I can do it by myself. And then the sad thing is I just can't do everything. I'm not an expert in half of the stuff, half the disciplines that's being taught here, and also in at work. So I have to trust my guys, and I do. They're expert in that field. So that's my biggest learning experience, my lesson from working at Blizzard. Tip for student to learn when transitioning to industry job, exiting the college. One of my teacher, that's something actually CalArts really hammer that into your head, is you have to be nice to everybody. And I say that to my class as well. Like, the industry that we're in are so small. Don't be a a-hole in any situations, right? Like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you could be the best animator in the world, but if you have a reputation as a person who is hard to work with, who's difficult, nobody's gonna hire you. They might hire you because they're desperate, they need someone, but then as soon as you put you in a team environment where you have to work with a bunch of people and interact with each other, the rest of the team gonna go, hey, why'd you hire this guy? He's such a hard, we're having a hard time working with him, or the directors are having a hard time with him. So and your reputation will precede you no matter what. The industry is so small that your name, your reputation goes around pretty quickly. So especially working in, like, say, the film industry, the visual effects, or animation industry, you're part of the union. You are working from job to job. One show is finished, you got to go to the next show. It's a constant sort of like, hey, I need to figure out what am I going to do in 6 months from now when this project is done. it's very important for you guys to build out that relationship with your friend. Half the job that pretty much all the job that I have so far is being recommended by another friend of mine who I knew from school. Blizzard was an old friend of mine. Futurama was a friend of mine. ILM, it's an internship they got me, but I'm not a best example. I only held 2 jobs so far. But they all, came from someone who I knew. And then I hire people from CalArts onto my team as well. I knew, buddy of mine who I knew he's a very good, competent artist, and then I want to work with him. So I reach out, and then so happened that he's free. So, we made it happen. That happens multiple times in the past, where I was able to hire a friend of a friend, right? Not because they're friends, because I knew they are good, and my friend recommended me. When we hiring for like additional artists too, like we'll ask people like, hey, we have opening, if you have friends or a coworker, ex-coworker who you knew that are great for this position, let us know. Those are usually always bump up to the top of the portfolio pile, where if you're just submitting something to like the HR, like it's sort of sometimes they get lost in the shuffle, right? So if you knew someone, definitely will increase the chance of you getting a job in that studio. And so be nice to all your colleagues. You never know. Maybe one day I'll be working for a person that I used to give notes to. That's just the way it is. One of our storyboard artists just left Blizzard to pursue a directing career at a different studio now. So good for her. And who knows? I told her that maybe one day I'll be working for you. Maybe I'll storyboard for you on your next movie or something. So just remember, you never know what will happen. My college roommate, actually my college friend who was my roommate at ILM, was the creator of Uncle Grandpa on Cartoon Network, right? So who knows? that's just the way it is. The world is. So just be nice to everyone. Keep in touch. Keep your social network. So right now social media is so easy. Like Facebook, you can connect with everyone and on the planet basically, right? So keep those contact. Back in the day, we have a Rolodex or your phone book. Now just like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I hit up people when I see someone who's really nice on drawings. I hit up the artist particularly. I go, hey, I'm blah blah blah. We're looking for more artists. Would you be interested? And I'm sure. And then I physically take his portfolio link to our HR guys and then say, hey, let's get this guy or her to up to the food chain and then see what happens, right? So these all happens. So put yourself out there. It's so much easier nowadays to also using social media to advertise yourself. Most of us who are artists are introvert. We don't like to be in the spotlight, but in an industry like this, you kind of have to advertise yourself as well, right? I'm a super introvert person. So when they made me a director, and I stutter when I speak, that's, part of the, genetic, right? My dad stutters. So I had to overcome that, figure out how to not stutter in front of a group of people. First, it started with just my team. I knew these guys for 15, 20 years, but once in a while, I still get into a stutter phase, where I just like the word just won't come out. Super embarrassing, but I have to quickly get over it and speaking in front of people. Later on, when opportunity comes, they're like, hey, Ben, you directed this piece for Diva. I'm going to send you to Korea to give a presentation, or you did this, we're going to send you to Gamescom in Cologne. You speak to, the YouTube in front of everyone. I'd be like, what? I don't want to. I don't know. I've never done this before. And they're like, too bad, you're going to do it. And then they'll give you some trainings and you just have to prepare and then go on and do it. But going back to my topic of being introvert, like you have to put yourself out there to showcase like what you can do, right? Interviewing, those are the skills that you have to develop as a student going into the job field. Be able to interview, like a lot of it is like when you submit your portfolio, and then they call you back to interview. I mean, your portfolio is good enough already, and at least that's how I gauge when I interview or when I'm part of the interview panel for future hiring is we seen all the portfolio, so we know the person we want to interview is perfect for this job already. Maybe there's two person or three people that's already done the work. You know that they're good enough for the job artistically. Interviewing really just see how you are, your interaction with other people, because animation is not a solo gig. You're working with like your fellow animators, your supervisor, your directors, and potentially a client that's gonna give everyone notes. So you have to know how to receive it. Two, you have to be able to talk to the note giver, taking the notes, also give feedback as well as receiving feedback. It's super important for you to be able to communicate your ideas, like verbally as well as artistically. So those are some of the you have to get used to learning how to verbally communicate a good idea. So yeah, that's let's see, what are some of the typical interview questions that you were asked? Well, I haven't interviewed for a while, so I don't remember what they asked me. Maybe like what kind of, like, we always ask this if you work in a game company, they'll ask you like, hey, what kind of game you play? Do you play video games? Blah blah blah. That's sort of just the icebreaker, something to kind of open up. But I tend to ask people questions like what kind of movie you like, what makes you tick in terms of like when you watch something, what gets you excited. If the answer is something similar to what we are looking for, that's a plus. If we're if your answer is I love a certain genre of film, I'll be like, cool, awesome. Then I knew that, and I also mentally compare that with your interview, your portfolio. If you say you love acting, but then all of your portfolio stuff is action stuff, and then I'll be like, hey, wait a minute, something doesn't quite add up, right? So I think the interview question is just in general, like on the fly, we sort of figure out what to ask the interviewee, interviewee. Yeah, sorry, I'm the interviewer. Anyways, so hopefully Sarah, that answered your questions. Maybe some favorite books, video, learning, film, animation principles. Illusion of Life, I think all animator, this is like the de facto answer, go get that book. It costs like $100 or something back in the day when I bought it. I don't know how much it costs right now. Get that, but honestly, I have to say I didn't read through the whole thing. It's in a pristine condition. I didn't flip through them. What I mean, book-wise, artistically, I don't really read. I can't tell you which book is the best book to get that will teach you everything. I think it's just really up to your taste. I really love this book. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. One second. I'll put the image. I'll put the book later. It's called Ink. It's more of a composition book that I sort of swear by when I was doing storyboards.
Is it framed ink?
Frame ink. Sorry, yes, frame ink. That was one of my favorite books. I reference that quite a bit in terms of. I'll put the Amazon link here. I'm not associated with Amazon. I'm not getting any kickback from them, but that's one of the most useful book in terms of, for me as a storyboard artist and a director. Animation wise, I didn't really read a whole lot of book. I'll be honest. I did my 2D animation training in school, so I'm not, you probably can tell that I'm not the best student in the world in terms of taking notes and stuff. So I sort of just fumble my way through animation, but Frame Ink is one of those books that really spoke to me and really taught me how to frame my shots correctly, at least in the still life thing. One tip that if you guys want to get into more filmic route, if you animation isn't your top, your top choice. Let's say you eventually one of you guys want to direct or do storyboards, or just have a good sense of composition. One thing that I do, I don't do that enough, I still want to do more, is pick your favorite movie and then sit in front of the TV with a sketch pad or iPad or whatever, and then just draw the frame. You can pause it, or like watch a movie. Like say for example, Doom just came out, right? And there's a gorgeous film. I find myself like looking at each frame going, God, what a cool shot. And then when you find a cool shot, pause it and just do a quick sketch of that composition, with really loose lines, maybe a couple of shapes. But you learn, like, just do that for the entire film or a sequence. I can guarantee you can walk away figuring, like really learn quite a bit from just doing that. You should, let's say if you love whatever movie, maybe it's Tarantino movie or it's Spielberg's movie, right? Watch, like, and then you find your favorite sequence. It's whether it's two-person talking to each other, or maybe it's a crazy action sequence from something from Cameron. Take that sequence, and then every single shot, just pause it, draw it, pause it, draw it. You don't have to draw big frames, like big pages, fill in the whole page. Just do little thumbnails, and then do that for every single frame, and then basically do that for the entire sequence. I guarantee you, walking away, you will learn a whole lot, and then respect the cinematography a lot more, appreciate those cinematography a lot more, by just doing that simple exercise. And I do that quite often with all sorts of movie. If you find yourself want to storyboard a really boring sequence about two people talking, and then you're like, what, and then you go, what is a good movie with just talking heads? And then you find that movie, and then you figure out how they stage the shot, like David Lynch or whatever, any director, whoever is your favorite director, just find those film that you really love, and then do that exercise. I can guarantee you learn quite a bit from that. What should students take away from working in the industry? What does the next generation of animator look like? Well, the next generation of animator are going to look younger and younger. That's for sure. I think the newer animator can animate circles around the older ones. They're much more faster. They're getting better every year. So I got nothing but respect for the kids that's coming out of school. Obviously, you tend to sort of fall into a bracket, right? I was talking in class, like there's the animation students that's our super duper hardcore animators, and there's like the modelers, there's the surfacing guy, for look dev, there's the concept artist. Right now, the field has been so compartmentalized. Everything is sort of like, hey, you are a modeler, you are a animator. Back in the day when I came out of school, so everyone's pretty much all generalists. You hire someone, and maybe the generalist is better at animation or modeling. But nowadays, it's just like everyone is so disciplined at their craft. It's going to be tough. Like I can't sugarcoat this any more than shouldn't sugarcoat this. When you guys come out, everyone's going to be so good. It's going to be competition all the way up to the top. So try to be the top of your class at whatever it is that you're doing, right? And pick one. My suggestion: pick one discipline and really, really dig into it in order to stand out from the rest of the crowds. Because there's going to be tons of guys going to animation school, and especially with animation or CG or visual effects being so broadly taught in all schools now. Back in the day, I can count the school that taught these things in one hand. Now it's like every single college has a CG department. So it's going to be really tough to stand out from the rest. But you still can. You absolutely can. It's really just about animation, or anything pretty much in life, is put in, you get whatever you put in, right? You have to invest a massive amount of time and then basically become a animation nerd or a modeling nerd to be able to really stand yourself apart from the from the rest of the group, making sure that you stood out. You're modeling. If you're a modeler, you have to be able to use all the ZBrush, whatever it is that you guys are using right nowadays, and your model has to have good designs. So not just like technical, but you also artistically you have to be able to have all these design principle well digested and propagated into your work, animation as well. Like you got to be able to act. Acting is a huge part of being an animator. You are basically, we call our animator closet actors, because they want to be actors, but they introvert or they don't want to go into the camera, but they pour themselves, they're acting through their animation. So you have to be able to act out all the sad scenes, the happy scenes, the dialogue. It's not just technical, like, oh, I hit my lip sync perfectly. Sure, that's great, but if the acting is bad, doesn't matter how perfect you enunciate O and W and F's, nobody's gonna care. It's the acting, the choices that you make, that's gonna really set your character apart, or your animation apart from the rest. And if you want to get into visual effects is a huge thing. Like I think right now everyone want to hire effect artists out there. Every studio is making big giant budget movie. If you know how to use Houdinis and really good at, like, we have guys who are just expert at explosions. They do nothing but explosion, and their explosion looks so good, but it takes years of practice to be able to get there, right? And then every time we're like, oh, well, you're really good at explosions. That should come easy. No, it doesn't. Nothing comes easy. Nothing worth doing is easy. So just remember that. Like if this is the career that you guys want to pursue, really invest 100% of your energy and time into it. Back then in college, I went to a really liberal college. Basically part of our tuition went into alcohol, because there's actually a budget line that says alcohol, because every Tuesday or Thursday there's a art opening where people put their art up, and then there's a event. So every Tuesday you can literally go down to the hall in the auditorium and get alcohol and look at art, and then just party all day if you want to. But the character animation studio students in our department literally are the nerds in the school, right? Like they don't go to the parties. They just work all day long, and that's probably that's a discipline that you guys have to create for yourself. And but on the flip side of that, being working in the industry for 20 years, especially the last 2 years working remotely at home, you do need to balance out your work and your work life and your personal life, so that they don't mix in too much. And because I've seen plenty of burnouts in the past 20 years, people who burn really hot, really bright, but then their fire extinguished pretty quickly, just because they don't balance out that the balance is off, and you don't get enough personal life. You work too much, you burn out on the content that you're working on, or just some people just simply going, I don't want to animate anymore. I don't want to animate these fight scenes anymore. I don't want to do these things anymore because I'm just burned out. So control that, balance that, figure out what the best balance is for yourself. That will pay dividends later on. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I know we only have an hour. I want to leave the next 15 minutes for questions, if you guys have any questions.
I actually have a couple questions here from the forum. I'll leave it to be anonymous, but feel free to speak up if it's your question. So I have one student who he's asked a couple questions. I'll start with the first one. What work, if any, do you see computer science majors in your field particularly?
Computer science, well, we're always looking for programmers, you know, like we have a big tool team, which are basically a computer science major geniuses who write tools for the artists, and it'll be nice. It's a bonus for them to be able to have a little bit of animation background or CG background, because then when they're writing tools for us, it's more useful than just like someone who came in theory with theories, but then in real life, it might not be as useful as a tool than say something that someone who's been developing tools for the animator themselves, right? But yeah, there's plenty of programmers, obviously, on the game side, programmers is like almost more important than the artist himself, because the game is running on programs. So yes, computer engineers are a huge component of working on games. In a visual effects studios, the tool makers are all geniuses who's in computer science major.
And to expand on that question, for someone who's like a non-animation major or someone who's in computer science, how could they personally go about their education and learn more about the animation and game field?
I'm the wrong person to ask that question, but I have no idea.
Okay. Let's see. Biggest technical challenge of making cinematics that you wouldn't expect if you've never made a cinematic before?
I think the biggest challenge is what I said before, is basically, a young director, a new first-time director, you need to be able to let some of the stuff go. A lot of time I've seen people done it, and also I've done it myself, is not able to compromise. I think what I learned, one of the big things I learned from directing is, everything in life is a compromise, right? You have to set a certain sort of keystones that you will not budge. Like, for example, I always give myself what we call it hills to die on, right? Like these are the tempos that I will never ever give up for. These are the hills that I'm gonna die or I'm gonna fight until I can no longer sustain anymore. But everything else is negotiable. Can I get this? If not, can I get, I'll push for 100%, but then if I can get 75%, I'm okay with it, on certain things. I always give myself like maybe 2 or 3 things that I will never budge, and then everything else is negotiable. Where I've seen young directors working for themselves and also working for other people, they wouldn't, everything is 100%, like I would never budge until everything is the way I pictured it in my head. That's going to be very difficult. One, it's going to budget wise, it's going to drag on the time, and the budget will eventually dictate what you can get done. It's early. The earlier you can recognize certain things that is a must have and certain things that not necessary, I can live without. The earlier you identify those things, the easier your production will be, because you can communicate that to people. People go, okay, Ben really need A, B, C, and D done the way he wants. So we will just spend as much money we can to do that. But everything else is negotiable. We can probably get them 75% there, and he'll be okay with it. And then normally I'm okay with it. So that's my biggest sort of learning for me starting out, because when I first start out, everything is 100%, and then and then people will do it because people go, okay, that's cool. If you want me to do this, I will do this. But then eventually you realize you ran out of time, and certain things that I would normally not compromise and give up, I had to do that just because the production has to come to an end. The game has to ship. The video has to go on the YouTube at a certain time. So that's my biggest lesson.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna just quickly look through some of the more questions. Let's see. So I guess to expand on what you were talking about, what would you say is the difference between when you call a director and a people's manager?
Director is not a people's manager. What's cool about being a director is you don't have to manage people. You have to manage expectations, meaning like you have to manage what you have to pitch something to like the upper management, to your client, and then manage their expectations. Someone will come in and go, hey, I wanted you to make a cinematic. Here's a bucket of money. I want 20 armies fighting in a galactic battle with giant spaceships and planet blowing up. I'll go, okay, you need 12 of those buckets of money to get that. They're like, okay, what can I get with that bucket of money? I'll go, I can give you 12 spaceships, but they're not going to be blowing up, or I can give you 2 spaceships and they can shoot the crap out of each other, and then it'll be awesome. And I'm like, okay, I'll do. How about you give me 3 spaceships and they don't shoot the crap out of each other, but they kind of damage each other. I can do that, and then that's the expectation we set for them, and then we deliver, hopefully more, right, to them. So that's sort of the management I have to do. People managing, normally when you say that, in my head I think like personal issues, salaries, these kind of stuff. I don't handle those. So these are more supervisor level people will handle, game people manager will actually do that.
So you're more like focused on the creative client side.
Yeah, I focus on creative client. I think of me as like a captain who steers the ship, right? I go, we have a destination. I got my order from my client. I need to take the ship from point to point B, and I'm gonna guide the whole ship there. The crew, I have my my co-captain, my whatever lieutenants out there that can do that. They will handle all of that stuff. And they're, I got my navigator who's gonna tell me exactly where I need to turn, all that stuff. They plot out the course and stuff. I kind of just point my finger, go that direction. Let's go.
Let's see. This is a question from Carola. The Last Bastion is my favorite Blizzard cinematic of all time. How did you bring so much emotion to a robot?
Very, very carefully and slowly. It's a lot of it is animation. I think our animator did an awesome job. One thing that I wanted, so we've been doing some research, and I've been kind of looking at, like I looked at a lot of Miyazaki films, really falling in love, try to put myself in channeling my inner Miyazaki. Hopefully some of that came through, but really try to get find like I'm the way I pictured Bastion is a old beat up pickup truck that you drove. It's like a family pickup truck that passed down from generations. It's always running, but it's not well. But when you sit in there, it's always kind of shaking. It's just comfortable, right? So when Bastion was in the sort of innocent mode, he's always shaking. He's just always kind of wobbling around, right? And then the motion that we give him, it's almost taking into take up like a childlike quality, because the way I thought of Bastion when he woke up without any sort of prior memory, when he lost the memory, he was a child. He's basically didn't know what's going on, and then he's trying to soak in everything from his environment. So he's curious. He's curious about the environment. He's curious about the animal around him, the grass, all that stuff. So try to channel a little bit more of a childlike quality to it. And then when he finally got his memory back, we stop all the jittering. He become more of a killing machine. Everything's tight, like all of a sudden all the nuts and bolts got tightened up a little bit more, so that when he walks, it's more forceful and direct. Where when he didn't get his memory back, he was just walking around in the forest getting lost, right? I think one of the things that we purposely sort of do is first he had a sort of a direction that roughly where he want to go, but eventually he quickly sort of going left and right in the screen direction. We on purposely sort of going left, going right, rather than just going one direction all the time, to kind of give you sort of a subliminal message, like he's just lost in the forest in his own little world, rather than going to a destination. All right, hopefully that kind of helped.
Thank you. I'm gonna combine two Vina's and Sarah's questions together. Any portfolio advice on how to stand out, what to include, what not to include, and in particular for animation portfolios, demo reels are given, but should we include any extra things like gestural drawings or character design?
My philosophy for portfolio is always your best work. I'd rather see one awesome animation that's animated to the point where it's going to stay with me forever than seeing 12 walk cycles and 20 bouncing balls and stuff. Like unless your walk cycle is super awesome with lots of characters, I wouldn't include anything that's mundane, like this exercise that you do in intro class. Don't do that. Acting, if you are like, I categorize animator as there's two basic categorize, right? The actors and then the choreographers. The actors are the ones that have really good acting skills themselves. They can act out the scene themselves in real life. They can project themselves into the animation. Their animation, like if you can make someone cry or feel something in a scene, you did a good job at it. You should include that in your portfolio. Acting is always one of the tougher of the two, in my opinion. A really good actor is a really good acting animator is very hard to find. Choreograph animators are people who's really good at action sequences, come up with really cool actions. I'm not talking about 3-point landing and Spider-Man flying through the air was, that you've seen billions of times, or Superman flying, punching someone in the wall. Like, really, if you want to stand out, you want to just think of what is the coolest thing you've seen on TV that's not, or in the film that you haven't seen for a while. Right, like when we first time seeing Neo dodging bullet in Matrix, you're like, your brain just blows up. You're like, oh, that's awesome, but then everyone started doing those 360 slow motion, and then you just go, oh, it's so boring. I've seen it all. So to stand out, you have to find the one that no one has, very little been done before. Why is Spider-Verse so good? They're taking that animation, the fluid animation, 24 frames per second, but then they added these like almost like jittery frames. Everything looked just fresher. That's a fresh take on what we thought was a cool Spider-Man film, and then that stands out. So your portfolio has to do the same thing. But general rule is only include the strongest piece, because your portfolios is only as strong as your weakest piece. Think of it that way, right? So if you like, oh, I got 12 really excellent drawing and I got this mediocre drawing, take that drawing out. Don't put it in there. Same thing with the scenes animation. If you really love these two animation sequences, and then you're like, this guy's okay, but I don't have any action sequence, so I'm gonna put that one in. That's gonna hurt you, don't put it in. If someone go, oh, this is not that great, why do you put it in? That will stay with your head. I'm not gonna. This is unfortunate, but when we looked at so many portfolios. When we're looking for an animator or a storyboard or whoever, our recruiter gave us like a ton of reel, like 50, 60 at a time. So going through that, it's tedious already. You gotta go through every single one, and then sometime you start skipping after the first 10. You're like, oh, this is the same thing. It's another walk cycle. All right, never mind. I'm gonna skip this one. Oh, there's another same whatever bouncing ball. I'll never even look at a bouncing ball. Right. So putting your best work in there. Put on the very first one, because a lot of time, unfortunately, we're living in a society where we're in an era of TikTok and Instagram Reel, where you get 15 seconds and you have to capture people's attention. Same thing with portfolio. It's the same philosophy. If you couldn't capture my attention for the first 15 seconds, what made you think I'm going to sit there past that 15 second and watch the rest of your reel? No, we're not. Most people won't do it, because they have a whole stack that's going to go through. We have to get through on top of the workload that we have normally, right? Imagine I'm directing something, so my day's full, but then they gave me 50 50 animation demo reel to watch, to pick one animator to work on my project, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go through them really as fast as I can, right? So the first 10 might be, if you're lucky, you're on the first pile, then you get a little bit more time. But as time goes on, if you're on the bottom of the reel, the first 10 seconds isn't gonna grab me, most likely I'm not gonna remember who you are, right? So stand out that way. Put the best thing in the very first, your best shot, best animation, best drawing in the very first first thing in the portfolio. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer.
No, that was a great answer. Thank you so much. We have 2 more questions, if that's cool with you. So here's the first one. So when you're looking at applicants, is there a priority over, like, is there a priority over students?
Is there a priority over student? No, I don't know who you are. When they gave me a reel, it's not like they label students and 12 years. Well, you can look at the reel and then look at your resume, right? Because usually that came attached to a resume. Yes, there are times where I go, oh, this is a student, but sometimes I spend a little bit more with students because you never knew what just because you don't have experience doesn't mean that your work is not good. Some people have like 12 years of experience working at blah 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 studio, and then you look at it real like, oh, it's not that great. What did you do for the last 12 years? And then you look at a student reel and you go, this is awesome. This guy's gonna go very far, right? So there's no like, oh, you're a student, you get special treatment, or you don't get special treatment. It's just your work. One thing, you don't know how many times I have taken a resume, there's a link to your portfolio, I click on the link, either there's the password protected and then you don't give me the password, or the link is broken. Just please make sure whatever you send them, if it's password protected for some reason, you put the password in a place where you can make it big font or make it so that's very obvious that that's where it is. Because as obvious as this is, a lot of people don't do it, and I have to hunt for it. Sometimes they don't even give me the password, and then the time it takes for me to go, hey recruiter, where's the password for this person? That's like a lot of people don't even do that. They just go, oh, I can't look at it real. Next, so make sure, pretty much all your portfolio applicants are basically submitted online with a cover letter, with a resume, and then links to your personal website, whatnot. Make sure all of them working in good order. Unless you have to, don't put a password on it, because nothing, especially when you're a student, you don't have anything that's top secret that you've worked on, for James Cameron, that's gonna be, some meaty shots from Avatar 7, so don't worry about it. Just don't put a password and just make things much. I guess my point is, make the recruiters and the people who's gonna look at your portfolio, their life as easy as you can. It will pay dividend, At least they won't go, oh, who's that? Oh, that's the guy that I can never get my portfolio, I can never get the portfolio link to work, so I just skipped it. Oh, okay, never mind, next person, right? So make sure your links and everything's working. It's such a small thing, but you don't know how many times that happened where I couldn't open a link. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. And I think, yeah, here's the last question. Can you tell us a bit more about the pipeline of the Overwatch shorts that you made? And do you have any tips for future potential pre-viz artists?
Damn, that's a loaded question. Just try to fit everything in there. That's a whole talk of the whole working process of Overwatch. I can give you like a really brief version. Basically, the client, the game team, come to us and go, hey, we have a new hero coming out, or we have a new map coming out. Can we sort of make a cinematic for it? And that was like sort of a couple years ago. Now I think we're planning a little bit more ahead of time. So we have, like, we can tell game team, like, we have the budget to make, like, a couple of cinematics or shorts for Overwatch or whatever, whatever game you want to do. And then what would you like to do? And they'll come up, they'll give us some a couple of ideas, and we can pick and choose. And then basically we take one topic, one idea, and then we pitch back to the game team a few variation on the ideas. You know, how we can tell the story in through 2 or 3 different ways. And then from there, the game team and the management, the VPs, they'll tell us like, okay, we like this one. And then from there, that grew into to the whole production. You know, once we get into production, it's the same. It's script, storyboards, previs, animation, you know, modeling, rigging, all that stuff that comes after. Which, you know, you guys probably know what the production cycle is.
Does anyone have any like last second questions?
I was wondering if you have any specific examples or advice you'd give about work-life balance, like any stories about that, because I hear bad things about the industry on that regard.
Yeah. Like if you have a space, if you're lucky enough to have like a little corner of the house or space where you work at, you know, try to keep that space only for work. You know, don't like play your games in that space. Don't, you know, sometimes you can, you know, you only have one computer and that's the only place you work at, sure. But try to separate it. And I heard this from one of my friends, which actually makes a lot of sense, right? Now that we work at home, I can roll out of bed, take a shower or not, get onto the Zoom and then start working within 5 minutes. And then I'll be in my pajamas. I got my camera shut off or just like above my head, right? I'll be and then just work like that the whole day, and then eat at my desk, and then at night go to and I'll start playing video games after work, and then dinner comes, I go eat, and then go to bed. That's it. That's my day. And then next day I do it again. It's the same thing over and over, right? What he told me is what he does is he gets up, he takes shower, just treat it like if I was going to go to work, put on work clothes, you know, put on some pants, put on some shirts that you would do when you go to work, and then sit down and work. And then lunchtime, get up from your desk, make yourself lunch, or go outside, get some lunch from the outside. So you have that change of environment, change of mentality, like you're at work. And then when you're done working, go to your room, take off your work clothes, change it to your pajamas, your sweatpants, whatever, and then you start to relax. I tried it and it actually worked. Like I put on just the fact of putting on like a button-down shirt, some pants, some slacks, rather than wearing sweats, it changed your mentality. And then you're like, I'm not very comfortable. I just sort of just go, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna power through it. That's how if I wear this work, that's how I'm gonna deal with it, right? I can't just go home and change. So I do that until I'm done with work, and I go to my bathroom and I change, I take a shower or whatnot. And then it's weird, but I'm much more relaxed lounging in the house with my sweatpants. Rather than wearing sweatpants and shirt and sweater all day long, I don't feel as much. I don't feel the comfort as much, right? So just little stuff that potentially can help you sort of balance that life. And then obviously go out, take a walk, hang out with friends, you know, like having some social life is important, because we human are social animals. You know, cooped up in the house for too long, it's gonna do weird things to your psyche. So yeah, having that balance. Go to sleep. Also, sleeping is really important. I know you guys are young. You can think that you can probably get away with 2 or 3 hours sleep a day. I'm telling you, that all adds up. When you get to my age, it's, you know, your body start falling apart. So stretching, exercising, and then also just keep a healthy, you know, healthy lifestyle is a very important thing. Like back in the day when we started first working, you know, I wish I knew these things, because, you know, like as we get older, you know, health it become a real issue, you know, a concern for a lot of us. And I know people who gotten really sick because they don't take care of themselves at their earlier stage. You know, don't drink too much. You know, these are just like normal stuff that that you should be watching out for. But especially for people like us, animators, artists, who, you know, introvert, we sit in the computer all day working, and then you play on the computer, you talk to your friends on the computer. Shut it off once in a while. Go outside, you know, turn off your cell phones and do some outdoor stuff. Go camping. Balance that out that way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be it for all the questions we have. Thank you guys so much for asking all these questions. Thank you so much, Ben, for answering all these questions and giving us an insight into your life as a cinematic director. It was really great.
Anytime. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Ben, for coming by.
Yeah.
I like to bring attention to everyone to the Google form that I'm posting in the chat. It's going to be a feedback survey form, and we'd appreciate if you guys fill it out for us so that it'll help us plan out events for each future. You can type in any comments about this event, and also about Ben, like you want to say something to him. We'll pass it all along to him once we have all of your forms submitted. But aside from that, thank you everyone for coming by, and this concludes our second Siggraph Speaker Series event.
Woo! That's awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah, it was
Just,
a good event. And for everyone as well too, this whole event was recorded. You probably saw the notification, so it'll be available in a little while. Once we can get that stuff uploaded, we'll make an announcement on the Discord and other social media. So
yeah, follow us on Discord and on Instagram. And speaking of events though, our upcoming event will be next Friday. Actually, it'll be under the Siggraph Studios events series. Majid Makor will be teaching you guys how to create a game ready asset. We'll be starting from Blender, modeling an asset and then importing it into Unreal Engine. But unlike here, it'll be all over Discord instead, so that you guys will be able to click on any links that Majid might be putting into the chat, as well as sharing any resources too. So it'll be all over Discord. And we'll see you guys there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you later.
All right, thanks for coming.
And stop the